Meet Geralt. Monster Slayer, Human Slayer, Slayer. He's conquered all manner of known beasts and men throughout the continent, but now he faces his greatest challenge yet, the Armada of the Dead. If our favourite Witcher wants to survive, then he's got to pick out a strategic location that gives him the best chance of survival. But where would be the best place to hold up? He's got to consider a multitude of factors, such as how easily it can be defended, what the zombie population in the surrounding area would be like, and most importantly, can he still play Gwent? So join me today as we examine various locations in The Witcher 3 to decide where would be the best location for Geralt to hold out during a zombie apocalypse. For full context, the story here is that a virus has swept the continent, causing everybody except Geralt to turn into mindless, bloodthirsty zombies. Basically, imagine a world where every NPC is now a rot fiend, and you get the picture. Also be warned, this video will contain full Witcher 3 spoilers. To assist in our totally accurate and scientific method, we're going to need some way to judge these various potential bases. And for this, we're going to judge each location on 4 different categories. First being defensibility. How easily can Geralt defend this place by himself should he be subject to a mass onslaught of zombies? The second being local zombie population. How many zombies would Geralt have to clear out from the base before he can use it, assuming that all the previous inhabitants have been turned into bloodthirsty undead monsters? The third being isolation. Zombies love to travel in hordes, so how easy would it be for more of them to get to his base? And the fourth being access to amenities. Geralt may be superhuman, but he still has to eat and drink like everybody else, so he'll somehow need to access these basic resources like food and water. Each of these categories will be given a score out of 10, meaning each location has a maximum possible score of 40 out of 40. Which location do you think will be our winner? Let me know in the comments down below and see if you're right. We begin our search at the Nilfgaardian Garrison on the outskirts of White Orchard. This may be a rundown ruin, but it's still a very worthy contender in this contest. It has a solid brick wall that runs throughout the entire perimeter of the structure, as well as only one main entrance, protected by a large wooden gate. Above the gate is also a small platform, from which Geralt can shoot his crossbow down at any zombies clawing at the main gate. This garrison is also built on top of a hill, giving it an even better defensive position against potential hordes. There are a few negatives, such as a few open windows that could potentially be climbed into, as well as the main wooden gate not being particularly sturdy. However, these could probably be boarded up to prevent any intruders. I think Geralt would have a fairly easy time defending this base, so it's getting a 7 out of 10. This one is a little more tricky for Geralt, as currently the garrison is filled with Nilfgaardian soldiers, so he would have to take out a few dozen zombies wearing armour in order to secure the fort. I still think he'd be able to do it, but it certainly wouldn't be a simple task compared to say a bunch of peasant zombies, so for that, it's getting a 4 out of 10. The garrison is located at the edge of the small village of White Orchard. It's pretty much in the middle of nowhere, so Geralt is unlikely to have to deal with any roaming hordes. Most likely just the odd small group of shamblers who make their way through the nearby swamp. However, it is still fairly easily accessible as it is on a flat plain in the central part of the continent. Because of that, it's getting a 7 out of 10. And finally, we come to the garrison's amenities, which are definitely plentiful. The ruin is sat right on the edge of a river, so Geralt would have no trouble finding enough water to drink. This river could also probably be used for fishing. I have no idea if Geralt knows how to fish, but he's caught a magical genie before, so a carp can't be that hard. The inside of the garrison is stocked with plenty of resources, as of course it was the base for a small army, meaning there is more than enough to last one Witcher for a long time. There are also plenty of weapons and places to fix his equipment, meaning Geralt won't have a problem in keeping his blades in good condition or replacing them if one breaks. Geralt could live for a long time without even needing to leave the walls of the ruin, so because of that, it's getting an 8 out of 10. Meaning that the Nilfgaardian Garrison gets a final score of 26 out of 40. I think that's a pretty respectable total, and it's definitely going to be in the upper echelon of the bases that Geralt has to choose from. Next up, we come to the free city of Novigrad, by far the largest settlement in the game, and perhaps the most interesting location to hold up in. Now obviously it would be pretty silly for Geralt to try and take down every zombie in the city entirely by himself and make it his home. In fact, even if he managed it, the city has multiple open gateways which would allow new hordes to easily just pour into it. It would be like in the first season of The Walking Dead if Rick rode into Atlanta and said, "Yep, this is our new home," and then he'd probably say, "Carl!" What I'm proposing instead is if Geralt can clear out Temple Isle and then block off the bridge to the rest of Novigrad, then he'd be cut off from the main city but still have access to all the resources on Temple Isle. Let's look to the categories and see how this would hold up. If Geralt could successfully barricade the bridge to Temple Isle, probably singing a lame Miz song as he does it, then it would effectively be impenetrable, as, like its name suggests, Temple Isle is on its own island, with zero access from the water as it's up on a higher elevation. Potentially, a large enough horde could break down the barrier, so it's not a foolproof plan, but even in that eventuality, there is access to the water with a boat, which will make for a convenient escape in the event that a horde breaks through. Taking all that into consideration, it's going to be an 8 out of 10. This is where it gets tricky for Geralt. The population of Novigrad in Witcher 3 is probably in the thousands, meaning on Temple Isle alone, there are probably at least a good few hundred zombies. Geralt may be an expert monster hunter, but I think even that would be too much for him to clear out on his own, and because of that, it's getting a 2 out of 10. Whilst it is an island by itself, it's still connected to the main zombie metropolis, which is Novigrad, and because of that, you couldn't really be less isolated. The city would probably attract zombies from miles and miles around, making the problem slowly worse over time. Once again, it's a 2 out of 10. Amenities, however, is where this location really does shine, as he'd have this whole island to take resources from, and could probably go months, potentially years, without needing to find a new source of food. And when he does, there is a convenient path down to the water where you can fish as well as gather water. The isle also contains the Temple of the Eternal Fire, and whilst we can't see inside it in-game, I'm sure it's home to plenty of resources as well. And hey, if Geralt ever fancies a change in scenery, he could always go and live in the cave underneath the island. It's hard to do better than a bustling city, so it's getting a 9 out of 10. That leaves Temple Isle with a score of 21 out of 40. It's a cool idea, but there are just far too many issues for it to make any practical sense. Next up, we're heading over to the Duchy of Toussaint to check out Geralt's new gaff, Corvo Bianco. This is the vineyard where Geralt decides to settle down after his many years of adventuring and monster slaying, with his one true love, Yennefer. Or Triss, if you're wrong. If a zombie apocalypse did break out on the continent, this is most likely where Geralt would already be. So let's see how it would hold up against the flesh-eating undead. Corvo Bianco is a fancy vineyard. It's not a fortress or a castle, meaning that in terms of defense, it's pretty lacking. The whole estate is pretty open, and there are far too many gaps to where it could be properly fortified. So Geralt's only real choice would be to hold up inside his manor house, and whilst he could probably barricade the door pretty well, it essentially means he'd be trapped in there. So for defensibility, it's getting a 3 out of 10. I imagine that to Geralt, the idea of having to put down all his zombified staff is pretty horrible, but he should be able to manage it. It wouldn't be easy, as there are a fair few people already present in Corvo Bianco. I counted at least 50, so it'd definitely be a tough fight. However, none of them are wearing any kind of armor, and there is plenty of open space for Geralt to dodge into should he need to evade them. So for that, it's getting a 4 out of 10. Corvo Bianco is located relatively nearby to the two most populated areas in the whole of Toussaint, the capital city of Beauclair and the Tawny Grounds, meaning at any point, a massive horde from either one of these two places could shamble their way into Corvo Bianco and eat Geralt for breakfast, which I imagine he wouldn't enjoy too much. Because of that, it's getting another 3 out of 10. As Geralt's home, the estate is filled with plenty of useful supplies that he can live off of. First off, the main house has a decent amount of food that he could sustain himself for a while. Plus, the extensive gardens that the property has means he could grow his own food for a more long-term solution. There is a stream around the back of the house for an easy-to-access water source, as well as all the supplies stored in the staff quarters. And, if all else fails, Geralt could just get majorly f***ed up on all the copious amounts of wine stored in the cellar and have a fantastic time, whilst he's slowly devoured. There isn't a massive amount for him here, but definitely enough for him to live off in the short term. So, it's getting a 7 out of 10. That leaves Corvo Bianco with an overall score of 17 out of 40. Whilst it's a lovely place to live in during times of peace, once the undead begin to rise, it will be pretty quickly overwhelmed. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, then please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. It really does help out, and in return, I will stand outside your window and make this noise all night. Oh! Now, we're getting into the big boys of the contest. Located in the heart of Velen, we have Perch, a castle and village currently under the ownership of Philip Strenger, aka the Bloody Baron. By the way, if you want to learn about how much of a shithead this guy is, then check out my previous video where I go into him a lot and how he's a toxic ass man. I hate him. I hate him. This place is literally designed to keep invaders out whilst you live inside for months at a time during a siege. So, let's see how it fares against the Skinwalkers. I am really running out of other names for zombies. Like any castle, Perch is built with defense in mind. It has a stake wall that surrounds the entire outside of both the castle and the village, providing excellent protection from any wandering shamblers. The lower village has two entrances. The main one features a large gate and a tower, from which Geralt could shoot down at anything trying to get in, much like the Nilfgaardian Garrison. The second entrance is the small opening to the side. The bridge to it is broken, but a zombie could still manage to make their way around to it fairly easily. The only other entrance being this cave that leads from the outside to the castle garden. However, unless zombies can climb ladders, this shouldn't be an issue, and it can always be just boarded up or blocked off. The village and the castle are then separated by one small gate on the hill, and then by a much larger gate with a tower and a portcullis at the entrance to the castle. This tiered system also gives Geralt multiple phases of defense, from which he can retreat up should a lower level be overrun. This place will be a struggle for a full army to break through, let alone a rabble of mindless zomboids. The only thing holding it back is lack of a proper stone or brick wall, and those two open entrances. However, it's still getting a 9 out of 10. Crow's Perch is currently home to a number of peasants living in the village, as well as a great number of the Baron's men who are at least all somewhat armoured. This one would definitely be pretty difficult for Geralt to clear out. It would be kind of like doing the botchling quest again, but 50 times, and all at once. Ugh. Because of that, it's going to be getting a 3 out of 10. Crow's Perch is located in the swamps of Velen, a fair distance from the cities of Oxenfurt and Novigrad, as well as the massive Nilfgaardian camp in the corner of Velen. The only other nearby settlements are small villages that wouldn't have more than, say, 30 people living in them, meaning Crow's Perch will be pretty safe from any hordes unless they travel over from a city or the camp, which would always be a risk. So, in this category, it's getting a 6 out of 10. This is a castle designed to be livable for months at a time without outside resupplies. Because of that, the main building has a cellar filled with supplies, which Geralt can live off for a long time, and that's not even counting all the resources he could use from the numerous other buildings and houses in the settlement. The castle also has features such as a well, meaning he never ran out of water, a blacksmith where he could repair his weapons and armour, and plenty of empty land where he could potentially grow food. There is more than enough here for him to live for years without much trouble, so it's getting a very respectable 9 out of 10. That leaves Crow's Perch with a score of 27 out of 40, just barely inching out the Nilfgaardian Garrison from White Orchard. Crow's Perch was honestly a heavy favourite of mine to win, however it was let down by its local zombie population and the sheer amount that Geralt would have to take down if he wanted to make a stand there. And finally, we come to our last potential base location, the home of the on-Crate clan, Kaer Trolde, or more specifically, Kaer Trolde Castle. Set high into the mountains of Skellige, this snowy fortress provides an excellent view over the vast oceans and valleys of this beautiful region. I've just realised I sound like a bloody estate agent right now. Kaer Trolde on the market now for the low price of 50 billion crowns, any buyers? Kaer Trolde is a large castle built right into the side of a mountain. It features thick walls of solid stone, one main entry point protected by 2 portcullises, and sturdy battlements firing down upon zombies. This place is an absolute fortress, and even the might of the Nilfgaardians would have a tough time breaking through. There are 3 ways to get up to the castle. The main way is to ride up this long tunnel that is protected by a smaller gate at the base of the mountain. However, it's the other 2 ways where the problems start to arise. The first being these stairs, which lead from the village straight up to the front of the castle with no gates or barriers whatsoever. Geralt will need to urgently block this to prevent zombies from being able to walk up right to his doorstep. And the second being this lift that rises from the village down below up to the entrance of the castle. I doubt zombies know how to operate a lift, but it will probably be in his best interest to disable it just in case. There are no additional layers of defense on the inside of the castle or areas to cut off, so if the main gate were to fall, then Geralt is pretty much screwed. But it's still a well secured castle, so it's getting an 8 out of 10. As the home of the on-Crate clan, Kaer Trolde is a home to a great many of their finest warriors, clad in the finest Skelligan armour. Taking out all these guys once they turn undead would be a pretty daunting task. Additionally, the castle is home to numerous servants and staff, which Geralt would also have to take down. Let's just hope there are no berserkers left, as I can't imagine how terrifying giant zombie bears would be to deal with. It's getting a 3 out of 10. One of this location's greatest advantages is the fact that being in Skellige means it's completely cut off from the rest of the mainland continent. So unless zombies can swim, then the only possible zombies that could show up are the ones that are already on the island of Ard-Skellig. And considering that the rest of the island is just small villages, the likelihood of Geralt encountering any kind of massive horde after he clears out the current inhabitants of the castle is very low. Because of that, it's getting a very solid 8 out of 10. This is the home of an entire clan, and we also know that the Skelligans love to drink, so this castle is chocked full of food and supplies. And that's only the rooms that Geralt can go into during The Witcher 3, presumably there are additional rooms with even more stuff for him to use. Water may be an issue, as I don't see a well anywhere, and the ocean is a fairly decent trek away. However, like a medieval peasant, he can probably just drink all the mead found in the cellars below instead. Additionally, there's really nowhere in the castle for him to grow food for a long-term solution, so he may have to invest in the world's largest fishing rod to get more food. Because of this lack of long-term food, I can't give it any higher than a 6 out of 10. That leaves Kaer Trolde Castle with a final score of 25 out of 40. Well, it's been a close contest, folks, but we have emerged with a winner. And that winner is... Wait, what the hell's that? Oh, of course. How could I ever forget? really thought I wouldn't mention Geralt's original home? Come on, this place is absolutely iconic. Kaer Morhen is the home of the Witcher School of the Wolf. It's the place where Geralt was trained, as well as where he and the other Wolf School witches spend their winters. It's probably the most iconic location in the whole Witcher series, but can it edge out and be today's winner? Let's find out. An important note here is that we're judging Kaer Morhen in its state after the battle with the Wild Hunt. So the already rundown castle now has multiple holes, such as in the walls and in the two front gates. There is a drawbridge, however it's not clear if this is functional anymore, meaning the only reliable defences are the two gates that lead to the main keep. We know that the outer one can be locked, as it is during the Battle of Kaer Morhen, so that's at least something. There's also a large hole in the wall right next to the door to the main keep. Unless this can be repaired or blocked by Geralt, it will be a major problem as it renders the lockable gate pretty much useless. If that were the case, the only defense would be the large gate leading into the main keep, meaning Geralt would be trapped inside the main keep if a horde were to make it all the way there. In its prime, it would have been a 9 or even a 10, however in its current post-battle state, it's more like a 4 out of 10. Kaer Morhen was never the same after the death of Vesemir. The only people who watch over it now are Eskel and his pet goat Little Bleater. So whilst it wouldn't be physically difficult for Geralt to clear out the castle, it would be rather emotional as he would have to put down his zombified fellow Witcher, and possibly the goat, I don't know. That being said, there would only be one zombie total in the whole castle, so it's getting a 9 out of 10. Kaer Morhen is famously hard to get to, 1 because it's deep in the mountains, and 2 because the path to get to it is only known by a few people such as fellow witches. So in terms of keeping hordes of roaming shamblers out, it's very unlikely they would come anywhere near the castle. Thanks to that, it's getting an 8 out of 10. Papa Vesemir looked after Kaer Morhen for decades, making sure it was well stocked for when he and his fellow witches would return home each winter. Because of that, Kaer Morhen is very well stocked with supplies including food, alchemy ingredients, and most importantly, booze! The castle also features a well where he can draw water from, and an entire forest to hunt game in. Geralt could rather comfortably live here for a long time without running out of anything, so it's getting an 8 out of 10. That leaves Kaer Morhen with a smashing final score of 29 out of 40. Okay, let's now total them all up and see who comes out on top. In 6th place with a score of 17 out of 40, we have Corvo Bianco, a beautiful place, but not really designed for any kind of defense. In 5th place with a score of 21 out of 40, we have Temple Isle. An interesting idea, but if Geralt actually tried this, he would be zombie food within a day. Coming in at 4th place with a score of 25 out of 40, it's Kaer Trolde. I honestly thought this one would be a lot higher, but it was hurt by its lack of long-term food and the sheer number of armoured zombies left in the structure. We're on the podium now, and with a score of 26 out of 40, the bronze medal goes to the Nilfgaardian Garrison. This feels like the perfect little base for one person to manage and live in during a global apocalypse. Just barely edging it out to win the silver medal with a score of 27 out of 40, we have Crow's Perch. This place seems almost tailor-made designed for this kind of thing, with multiple layers of defense and plenty of space to grow more food. Before we reveal today's winner, I would like to thank our sponsor, Imlerus Chiropractic, delivering a cracking good time every time. And now, let's reveal the winner of today's contest. Drum roll please! With a score of 29 points, it's of course, Kaer Morhen. Round of applause for Kaer Morhen, everybody! And realistically, I think this is the one Geralt would choose regardless of where else is available. I find it rather poetic to imagine Geralt returning to his home to defend it one last time. Hi, and thank you so much for watching today's video. It was a bit different than my kind of usual video essay style content, so I really hope you enjoyed it. If you're into more Witcher 3 content, then click here to check out a video I made on comparing Witcher 3 and Skyrim in a similar kind of point system. If you're into more me analysing locations from video games, then click here to check out a video I did on Hitman 2016 analysing the locations from that game. Thanks guys.